Lawrence Mann. I'm a freelance illustrator, concept artist, and as of this year, a Corel Master Painter or Painter Master. Okay, so yeah, I'm normally used to doing webinars or um, Google Hangouts, kind of not just by myself, but I'm used to doing them kind of bandying back and forth with a few other people or at least one other person. So this is a little weird just speaking to myself like this and having other people just listen. So okay, so yeah, there are 6 brushes in the pack that I'm giving to you, and I've created 5 of these, all 6 of these, sorry, as Photoshop ABR brushes. So there are these as well that you can also use, but I've imported these and created all the settings for you, and they work absolutely great. So if I just grab one of these here, any one of these, you'll see straight away in place. There you go. And I've created one as well, which is there we go. I won't focus on these, but because you're here and because you're watching, you get these exclusive 7 brushes. There we go. Okay, so 6 of these are ABR brushes, and the 7th is a dynamic speckle brushes, dynamic speckle brush, and these all work in Painter 2016. Unfortunately, they won't work in any other version, but you can also get a nice discount off of Corel Painter 2016 with my unique discount code, which you can find by looking through some of my videos on my YouTube channel, which is Lawrence Can Draw. Okay, so anyway, let's crack on with the lesson today, the video today. If you've got any questions, feel free to ask away. So what we're going to do today is something I've done a few times for clients. This is something that I did once, and then a couple of different times clients have said, oh, I really like that. Can I pretty much just have the same thing? But can I have this a little bit different and that a little bit different? So clients keep asking for this, and yeah, I just end up changing little bits here and little bits there, but it's something that works really well. And over the years, I've ended up, I must have drawn about 40 of these things, but it's actually really quick, it's really simple, and it's a lot of fun. And the brushes that I'm giving to you, they'll really help you to enhance what we're about to draw. Okay, and Painter is perfectly set up to draw this as well. Now, what I've done is I've started with a black canvas, and I'm just going to create a new layer because I always make the mistake. I always make the mistake of just drawing onto the canvas, and I never want to do that. I always want to just create a blank layer. Now, it's funny because when I work in Photoshop, I can go upwards of about 200 layers, but when I work in Painter, I tend to keep it down to maybe 10, 20 layers. So I work differently in the 2 programs. And I do stick to those 2 programs. I use different programs on tablets as well, but when I'm using my desktop, well, my laptop, I tend to stick to just Painter predominantly and Photoshop as well. But I do work very, very differently in the 2 programs. So I've got my my layer. I also used a poll on Facebook to ask people what kind of dragon they'd like to see me draw. And some of you came back and said primarily a stone-headed dragon, stone crest dragon. So that's kind of what we're going to go with. It wasn't miles ahead, but So I'm going to use my symmetry tool, my mirror painting tool here, and just turn that on. So I've got it right down the middle. And that's really going to help, because what we're going to do is we're going to only draw half of the dragon here. And we're going to cheat a bit. And this is really going to save time, because obviously I'm spending a lot of time yapping on. And we're also going to paint just in black and white. I am going to use another brush that I've created. I'm going to use my scratchboard variant tool. Now this is pretty much just the scratchboard tool, but as you can see, it's a little bit like a calligraphy brush as well. Right, now the mirror painting tool, if you've ever used Painter, you'll see it's just, there you go. It is just, as the name suggests. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take the size down a little bit. Now, today to draw, I'm using the Wacom 27Q HD Touch, and this is making my life a lot easier. It's an absolutely brilliant, massive Wacom touchscreen tablet. Really does help. So the first thing I want to do is, with a nice dark grey on a black background, I really just want to sketch out really quick, rough dragon head. Now I might create a few different ones of these. It just depends how good it looks and how quickly it comes together. And I'll just all I'm going to do is just scribble away a few different things and see what I like and what I don't like about it. And you see how quickly there I can just come up with a few different things. Now you see straight away that's starting to look like a dragon's head, but for me I don't really like what I'm seeing. But I can take that down to kind of 20%. I can add another layer on top. Oops. Do apologise. And I can just, maybe I want something with bigger horns. So I'm just going to bring this down. Go for maybe a bigger crest here. Give it a How are you doing, Tanya? You still there?
I am certainly still here, and I'm waiting for people to enter some questions in. When they don't put questions in there, that means that you're covering everything.
I was talking too much.
No, not at all. Have you always used Wacom tablets?
Yeah, it's funny. On YouTube the other day, I was going through some folders of old photographs, and I got into digital cameras, painfully early on. Back when digital cameras cost a lot of money and they were absolutely useless. Back when they used to go 1.2 megapixels, woo, 700 quid.
I remember those days.
Which is, double the amount in dollars. And they did video. You could record video on those. And I came across a piece of video. That's awful. That dragon head is awful. Um, and I came across a piece of video on one of those of me just sat there sketching on a piece of paper, but you could see my old Wacom tablet in the background, and it was a 12 by 12 inch Wacom tablet from 1990 something. I remember the first drawing tablet I ever used, and it must have been about 1992.
Yeah.
But the active area on that one was about 4 inches by 3 inches.
I had one of those also. I think I actually still have some of them down in my basement. I'm not quite sure what to do with them at this point.
A friend of mine just gave an Apple II to her local museum. So maybe there is a technology museum that would be very grateful for it.
Yeah, especially in Chicago. Should look into that.
Yeah.
I think you're being too hard on yourself with the dragons you're deleting here.
But that's the good thing when it's, when it's only a little sketch like this. This is another thing you can do, which is to just do little thumbnails like this. These little thumbs can save you a bit of time as well.
So what do you tend to rely on Photoshop for versus Painter? I'm just kind of curious.
Photoshop, if I'm outputting for web, or print, Photoshop can do CMYK, and I've been asking Painter during the beta tests for ages, can we have CMYK, please?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Because I'm a print guy, so I want CMYK.
So do you just end up taking...
And just for... I just end up, when I draw stuff, I just take it through, really, and just do stuff like that. But I started off in Photoshop before Painter. I know a lot of people, started off in Painter. But I was using Painter before I was using Photoshop before I was using Painter. So sometimes I can just be quicker doing something in Photoshop.
And how did you find the transition? Was it challenging to transition from Photoshop to Painter, or easy to do this kind of painting work?
I find them amazingly symbiotic and easy to use together. I don't find them a struggle, and they're not dissimilar. They're completely the same to use. They work beautifully together, and I don't think I don't have any trouble changing from one to the other. Some days I'll just swap back and forth between the two, and it doesn't upset me.
I have a question from Sherry, and she's wondering if you find that you sketch more thumbnails when you're working digitally and delete those than you would if you were just working with, pencil or pen and paper.
I tend to draw thumbnails on paper when I'm talking to clients on Skype, because I don't like to have lengthy conversations over email. I dislike that. So what I tend to do is I like to have Skype conversations with people, and it normally works out really great, and I come away with my notepad being a little more filled up. I don't even use pencil, I use a biro, and yeah, I just basically, oops, what's going on? Yeah.
Our audience is very quiet today. I do
It is,
see
isn't it?
I see a fellow painter master here. Aaron Rutten is on the line.
How you doing, buddy?
Now, what time is it for you right now? It's evening there, right? Early
Yeah.
evening? Yeah.
Yeah, it's at the moment it's 20 past 6 in the evening.
I actually didn't take a look prior to the webinar to see how many people registered from other countries, but we usually get quite a few.
That's why.
So what kind of freelance work do you have on your agenda right now? Do you have any big projects you're working on?
At the moment, I've kept myself kind of clear. At the moment, I'm working on a couple of book covers, and I've got uh, a couple of small projects on, but I'm just doing a bit of PR at the moment and chasing a few little leads. But I need to do some big pushes, so I want to get some nice big jobs in and get some new clients. So it's all about chasing that up.
So do you find,
Realistically, you know, you have to
yeah,
go
do you find that, is it difficult to obtain clients? Because you're just mentioning it's a lot of chasing. How do you find new clients? Or do they find
It's
you?
difficult. Most of the time they find you, and all of my work is word of mouth. All of my work is word of mouth. So that can be absolutely great, but the trouble with it is you're not picking your jobs. So again, you need to do what I'm doing now, which is you just need to stop and kind of go out there and just pick the jobs that you want to do and say, you know, that big client that you always wanted to work on when you were a kid, you know.
And are those big
But I'd really
clients?
do like to do Magic the Gathering.
Yeah. Are the big clients harder to work with? Do they
So
kind of compromise your style?
no, not at all.
No.
Sometimes smaller clients can be more controlling,
Hmm.
but I mean I found it works either way. It really does just depend.
I know that you have a background in
But
advertising, and I used to work at a little
yeah,
agency in Chicago, and I completely understand how the little clients can be more demanding.
because it's the money is more personal for them.
Hmm.
It's their money. But then some small clients are just like, yeah, go run with it. I trust you completely. It just depends on the person who you're dealing with.
I have another great question here, and it's from Sherry asking, do you find yourself defending your digital art process over traditional art? I do hear that one a lot.
Yeah, I hear that one a lot as well.
For some
And it's
reason, I'm sorry, you cut out for a second. I don't know if it was just on my end.
oh, did I?
Yeah.
Sorry. I don't understand how digital art is any less valuable than um how is digital art any less valuable than traditional art? You know, we still paint it, we still craft it. Just because of it, I mean, we can print it. It doesn't, you know, I'm I'm not a fan of that argument. I don't like it, so I don't see the point of it. It's one of those arguments that really I think falls down when you pressure it. Why is it actually less valuable?
Yeah, I don't believe that either. It's the same process. It's just different technology that you're using.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of guys be very snobbish about, you know, what they allow in their what they allow in galleries and
I think sometimes people just want to see that buildup of paint on the canvas. It's something in their heads. And now we have all this 3D printing technology that could end up
yeah.
changing all of that.
Well, I've seen a lot of people create digital art, print it, and then add a few pieces of to turn this into a negative, but because it wasn't pure white in the first place, it didn't work 100%. So I'm just gonna turn on the preserve transparency layer, grab my digital airbrush, hook up the black.
Aaron's got a question for you. Can you hear me? Ugh, Lawrence, I can't hear you. I can see when I'm talking, the mic is going up, so I hope that everybody can hear me here. There was a couple people that responded and said that for some reason the sound is choppy. Let's see here. Ooh. Okay, now you're microphone is back. It seems that for some reason you're going in and out a little bit. But Aaron
Okay.
is, I can hear you now. Aaron is
Right. Okay.
wondering if,
I thought I was just going to have to do that all the time.
no. Is there a major difference in the image quality on the Cintiq 27 versus your older model?
Oh, yes. This new Cintiq, it's just sharper. All around, it's just sharper. It's if you've looked at the new iPads or the new iPhones or anything like that, and they're saying, oh, the Retina technology. If you've heard Apple talking about their Retina screens and stuff like that, it's kind of like that. The screens just seem sharper and better, and you get really close, and they're just better quality screens.
And because the screen is better quality, that probably means that you can create more detailed artwork, I would imagine.
Yeah, yeah. I can get closer to it after sitting there all day on it. And you can see as well as how much room I have on my screen, right? The one thing that I think is quite an issue maybe with Painter is that it uses quite a lot of palettes. So you have to be very selective over which palettes you have open. Does that make sense?
Yes, that makes total sense. I know that, the number of palettes can be overwhelming, especially to people new to Painter.
Yeah,
So that's
yeah. And I
why,
think when I first came into it, I was like, whoa, there's a lot of palettes.
yeah, but the good thing is you can customize the whole UI how you want it. So you could set up your workspace, and now even with 2016, the new custom palettes allow you a lot more flexibility in what you can include in those palettes and that you can exchange with others. So we're constantly trying to make
Yeah,
improvements, to streamline things so that people don't feel like it's cluttered or that they get overwhelmed.
no, and I don't think they will. But the great thing about this Wacom is that the screen is so huge that you can have more palettes out. And I think this really, really helps with Painter. I mean, you can see just how tiny my palettes kind of look. They do look kind of minuscule, don't they? Does that make sense?
They look, well, they look even smaller to me because I don't have this full screen right now, but yeah, they look fairly small.
Yeah. I have a lot of palettes open right now. Whereas I think in the past I probably wouldn't have opened this many palettes. But now I'm more than happy to. You can see right now it's so easy to just work on one side of this, and I really don't have to worry about the other side. But at the same time, I'm free to just go back and forth and work on whichever side I want, which is absolutely great. Now, what you can do is you can always just do little thumbnail drawings in a sketchbook beforehand, or go online, look at some reference images. That always works really, really well. And you don't have to be overly neat, especially not at this stage. I'm just trying to get a rough working in.
Do
And the good
you,
thing is,
sorry.
dragons aren't exactly spectacularly kind of neat anyway. Go on.
No, they are. What do you mean? Dragons are awesome. I'm
No,
wondering.
I didn't mean neat like that.
So,
Of course they're cool.
yeah. Is this your standard process? So I think you started with the scratch board tool. Now I see you're using the airbrush. Is this kind of how you
I've
start
got,
every? Go ahead.
I really go back and forward with brushes. I change my favorite brushes all the time. It really, really depends. I will pick new favorites all the time.
I have a great
I'm not,
question from Tim here for you. He's saying that he's primarily a photographer and a
go,
Photoshop user, and I know that you personally
yeah.
have created tons of tutorials. He's just wondering what would be your suggestion for becoming more familiar with Painter and kind of breaking out of the auto painting.
Yeah, I've got to say I'm not a fan of auto painting. I think auto painting makes it gets you into a routine, and I'm not. Oh no, I think it's because I'm an illustrator that I just look at auto painting and go, right, it's kind of cheating. Uh, I know I'll get slapped by a couple of people for that one. But yeah, it's one of those things that the best way is just to go and watch as many tutorials.
We're losing you again. Do you have any external applications going that you might be able to shut down? I'm not sure
If you
why.
can. Um, Shut down my mail. I need Firefox open, don't I?
Yeah,
Yeah, I need my web browser open. That's it then.
okay. Thank you. Yeah, I think there's a place for auto painting if that's how you begin your photo and then you do some hand painting and touching up. It's kind of a way to, muck the photo up and get paint all over it, but then fine tune it after that. But I do agree.
I think if you
Go ahead.
using it as a base,
Hmm.
if you were using it as a base, then it wouldn't be that bad. But I see far too many that are just, you know, that are just too much. It's like 90% the auto painting, and they don't try and actually do anything on top of that. And I think, there's no real creativity if they're not trying anything on top.
Yeah, I mean, I highly recommend, of course, your tutorials. I know that Aaron Rutten has created just a ton of tutorials on his YouTube channel,
Oh, loads. Yeah.
and they're all free. So Tim, I would recommend, even if you go and visit the our Painter Master, our 2015 page, and you can link off to the master sites, you'll find a lot of free training resources there.
You
And then
can
there's,
donate to us though.
what was that?
There's the PayPal link to buy me a cup of coffee, and I'm just saying you can donate. I
Right.
accept cups of coffee via PayPal on my YouTube channel, and Aaron has a whole Patreon thing. So
Hmm. Yes, it's very kind of you guys to put out free content, but it's also nice,
yeah,
for people to donate a little bit to the cause.
yeah, I need my coffee.
How long would it typically take you to create? I see it looks to me like you're getting a lot of detail in here, but to go from sketch to something that you would consider a final painting.
Um, one of my paintings typically takes about 2 weeks, but one of these types of paintings can take a day or so. I mean, I definitely wouldn't. Whoops. I definitely wouldn't finish this as quickly, as this webinar. Sadly enough.
I don't know too many artists
But
that
yeah,
can, whip something out in a webinar while you're answering questions and multitasking, and it's quite difficult.
if you could just say, right, in the webinar while talking, you know, that's why when me and Aaron normally do Google Hangouts and things like that, sometimes we don't even draw. Okay, most of the time we don't even draw. But it's just what happens. You want to draw, you start off with the best intentions, but that's why, you do tutorials as well and other bits in the vlogs and so on and so forth.
And I think it's better in small doses. It's difficult for people to sit down and take, an hour and a half to watch a full process video, or bite-sized information is something that they can digest and they can try on their own and then move on to the
Yeah,
next step.
exactly. Well, one piece that I just put up, I cut up into, it was an hour and a half long, so I cut that up into 3 different videos, that up into as one long hour and a half video, expecting everybody to just, go up and watch the whole thing as one big chunk. Who would have done that? Who would have sat there for an hour and a half watching me dribble on like this? They would have had to have been a lunatic.
Aaron has another question for you. He's wondering how you're liking the new dynamic speckle brushes, and do you think that they work better than the ABR brushes for creating dragon scales?
Well, this is why I've put one in here, and let me just show this off here. This is one of the this is one of the ones here. I don't know if you shared the brush.
We shared when you initially posted the information, but what I can do is actually email these direct to anyone that has attended the webinar today.
You shared the brushes yet? That is the dynamic speckle skin texture brush. So you can see that's in there. Whereas, say for example, that is really gotten their own. They've both really got their own.
Yeah, I love those. Those are great.
Most of these are ABR. It's just the last one that's dynamic speckle. I think that the dynamic speckle for me is awesome. I love it just as much as I love the particle. And I think both of them for me really expanded what Painter could do, especially as I am fantasy artist. It really kind of opened up Painter for me. You know, being able to do superpowers and magic, and for me that is what what particle brushes are all about. As soon as I saw them, I was like, "Oh, that's magic!" you know, that's magic coming off of the sword. That's force powers for doing kind of Star Wars art. That's what these brushes are. It's thunder, it's lightning, but I mean, again, if I just grab this Speckle brush,
I don't know if you've played with it yet, but have you tried Particle Shop?
oh yes, yes, no, it's absolutely great.
And for anyone that's on the webinar that hasn't heard of Particle Shop, we released a plugin for Photoshop. It also works in Draw and Paint Shop Pro, and for any of you that are using other Corel products, and also in Lightroom. But it specifically brings in particle brushes. So if you have any friends that are using Photoshop that might be interested in Painter's particle brushes, it's a nice way to get started with it without diving into full-blown digital art software.
No, it works really well. As the you know the brushes in there are absolutely great. Again, going back to what I was saying about fantasy and sci-fi art, there's a superhero set in there that works really well as well, and I think there's hair brushes in there, and fur brushes as well. There seem to be a lot of really good sets for everything. So I think me and Aaron did a set of videos. We did a whole Google Hangout, and we did quite a good chat that's still up on both of our YouTube channels, going over kind of every key feature in Painter 2016, and we did one on Particle Shop as well. We showed it off a bit and talked about how absolutely great it was.
I'm going to have to make sure, I know I shared the 2016 on our YouTube channel, but I'll have to make sure I added the Particle Shop one to our playlist also.
I think it had just come out, and it was the first time we'd played in it.
Okay.
Because I'd literally just installed it, and it was the first time we'd played in it. Or maybe it was the second.
Well, that's good. It gives people a good introduction. If you're brand new using it, kind of experience that you have. It's nice for people to see that.
We, I mean, we beta tested. Obviously, we beta tested all the particle stuff, but you know, um, we even had a hand in coming up with some of the stuff. But the actual particle shop plugin, we hadn't had a chance to use. So.
We've got another question, and the question is, do you always work from dark to light, or does it depend on the piece that you're working on?
Oh, it totally depends on the piece. It really does depend on the piece. In fact, it is quite rare that I work from dark to light.
Do you always start in black and white, though? You would never start with color right away.
No, sometimes you have to start with color. Sometimes
Hmm.
it's impossible to do black and white. Um, I always feel it's better to start monochromatically and introduce color later on. It would always be better, but sometimes with certain colors, it's actually impossible to introduce the colors later on. Because what happens is, say if I was drawing a really brightly cheeked baby or something like that, you just find that the colors you can't wash them in as well if you want certain things. Or if I was doing an extreme close-up of an eye, it just doesn't seem to. Just doesn't seem. It's really weird, but some things you have to go straight to color because when you start off in black and white, yeah, you'll never be able to add the colors in and have them right on a use in advance for that to work. And it's more of just an experience thing. You just know which colors work and which colors don't.
So if anybody has any questions, go ahead and pop them into the questions panel. Now, how many brushes did you make for them?
There's 7 brushes there.
That's great. We hardly ever give away brushes during our webinars. I'd love to see what everybody that's on the webinar can do with them.
There's the first one, which is like a scale texture there. So what I've done is I've just hand drawn one scale and turned that into an ABR stamp. But it starts off as being a nice line. There you go. But then with a bit of firm pressure on your tablet, it starts to scatter. Now if I draw a line down but press shift, oops, fine. There you go. Did I change the setting? Yeah, I did. No, never mind. Yeah. If I go really slowly anyway. They stay relatively stacked. There you go. And it works out really nicely. You know, and you could even, if you manage to line them up properly, you could even build a nice armor piece. But then if you just press down hard on your Wacom and go mad, you get this lovely all over pattern.
Now,
So that's brush number 1.
if you wanted to keep them perfectly straight, do you ever use the straight mode for your brush?
Do you know, I do on occasion, but I'm not 100% sure. Let's just go back to this for a second and turn that straight mode on there. See, yeah, I didn't think it'd work with that one, just because it's got the scatter on.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Because it'll scatter based on your pressure.
Yeah, yeah. Because I was thinking about the Wacom tablet when I created these. See, just because I was thinking more about the pen pressure and you know and things like that. I do use it, but only when I'm trying to be more technical. You know, say if I use my scratchboard tool like that, then it's quite cool. But that tends to be when I'm using it, rather than on brushes like the dragon texture brushes.
Makes sense.
Sometimes I tend to knock it on with my hand. That's the only trouble with having a touch tablet, is that I tend to knock the straight tool on with my hand.
Mm.
And then I wonder what's happening to me. Brush, really, because you can fill in entire areas. Worse, I know it doesn't look it to this.
Uh-oh. We're losing you again. I can tell you're having some kind of audio difficulty because your microphone disappears. Hmm. Erin has a suspicion that when you're painting large areas and zooming in while talking, that's what's causing the audio to cut out, which is part of the challenge of presenting online, especially with software like Painter. We still can't hear you, so hopefully you can hear us. I do like the way that that texture looks, though. It's very subtle. Sorry, everybody. I'm not sure exactly why Lawrence's audio has cut out here. Let me see. Oh, now you're back.
Am I back?
You're back.
Oh, that's good to know. I don't know why you lost.
It's still cutting in and out,
So
and maybe
that's.
Erin might be correct that it's, I don't know, zooming in on the canvas. I'm trying to figure out what's happening.
I wondered if it was the brush being a little too heavy on the. Might be rotate me. I wouldn't have thought so. It's a shame if that is the case.
And I just want you to know, I know you are willing to paint forever, but I'm not expecting you to continue. This is looking so good, Lawrence. That looks awesome. And you've solely been using the brushes that you created for this session, right?
Uh, with a few of the brushes as well.
Okay.
But yeah,
So this is your last chance, everybody. If you want to ask your questions, please enter them in the questions panel so that we can address these during the session for you here today. And I did have some people ask, how are you going to get the brushes? And I will email those directly to you after the session from the email that you registered this webinar with. So you should expect to receive those later this afternoon.
maybe everyone's gone out for tacos.
I'm going to have tacos for lunch.
You know, I'm just, that's all I can think of now.
You know, some sessions, there just aren't a lot of questions.
I suppose dragons don't really raise a lot of questions, do they?
No,
It's
I
funny
don't think
because
that's true.
I put out the poll there saying, you know, what kind of dragon do you want to see me draw? And I got very few people, you know,
I,
put an answer back, which I
I
was really
find
surprised at. So
I'm not surprised because I do find that
this is
when
why I
I
thought we'd go
call,
for a more generic dragon.
yeah, when I ask people what would you like to see, especially in social media, they tend not to respond. And I'm not sure why that is, because there are some times that, I'd really love to know what kinds of tutorials people would like to see or other information, but especially on Facebook, you don't get a lot of response.
I wasn't trying to trick anyone.
And maybe they just don't know what they want to see. Because I think a lot of people show up to the sessions just, to learn some tips and some basics.
Well, I think the main thing with Painter is that, you know, when I first opened it up, you know, I came in from a Photoshop point of view. And when I first opened it up, I thought, wow, there's a lot of settings. And that to me was a little daunting. But I quickly realized that, yeah, there are a lot of settings, but you don't have to use them all. And of the, you know, there are now, and I don't use 1,000 or so brushes. I do create a few brushes, funnily enough, but it doesn't matter. You don't have to use all the brushes that are there. I only use these kind of brushes here. I have a few brushes that I made myself, and I give those away happily for free. You know, these dragon ones as well, which I will use more in the future because I draw a fair few dragons. I've got my blenders, my basic brushes, um, these distortion ones as well, which are great. A few other things like splatters and that, but realistically, I think the main thing is to get in here, get all your palettes organized, and you'll be aware. And the great thing is now, I think 2016 gave us all of the little the tooltips, and I think I think these help massively. I think these really do help. I think these are so cool that I can just, mouse over and it instantly tells me, what it is. So, if that would have been the case when I first came to Painter, I think that would have generally helped me a lot. And now that that exists, I think that's going to encourage a lot more people to come over to Painter.
Daniela has a question for you, and I think this is related. She's asking about the mirror tool and how you keep the image lined up with the mirror tool. And I think the question is actually when you're rotating the canvas. So Daniela, I think you can click to rotate the canvas and the mirror tool automatically stays in the same place, but it just gives Lawrence a different painting angle.
Yeah,
I don't know if
I'm
you,
just
yeah.
rotating the. I'm just.
And I can tell right now the sound went out while he's rotating the
my
canvas.
canvas.
Yeah. Your sound cuts out when you rotate
Yes.
the canvas.
Unless the question was about how did I decide about where it was. I can grab this if I select the mirror tool. I can grab this and move this about.
Right. And you can add
I can also
horizontal and vertical.
use the kaleidoscope. Yeah. I don't want to do this right now though because I'm in the middle of drawing. And I know if I move this, I'll never be able to get it back to where I had it.
Right.
And I'll be shooting
Right.
myself in the foot. So.
Amanda was wondering
I know
if
I've
you
done
have.
it before. I've done it.
You know, that does make me think it would be interesting to be able to set a point for the mirror tool. I think by default right now you have it just in the center of the canvas, but if you did want to be able to move it and then set it back to a previous point.
Now that I've given this nostrils, it looks like a cow.
No, it doesn't. Do you have any advice to people wanting to sell art? No, it doesn't.
That's fair.
It really doesn't like when you zoom in, zoom out, rotate.
Now, when you say sell art, it's funny. I don't sell art as such myself. So, um, so what do you mean by sell art? Do you mean?
I'm thinking I'll wait and see if Robin lets us know exactly what she's referring to, but or wait, was it Amanda? Sorry, it was Amanda. Probably, a lot of people post their artwork online for sale, and I know there's a variety of sites to do that. Is that what you're referring to, Amanda? Let us know, and we'll see if we can answer that for you.
See, I've never done that because I I've never found it to be overly successful in the past when I have tried it. And I found because a lot of people have said to me, "Oh, you should try it, you should try it," and I found that I think the once or twice when I did try it, I found that the return on investment was just so time consuming that I just thought, nah, it's not really worth me putting in that much effort. My work isn't the kind of work that really sells. So for me, I think your work has to be a certain type of work.
Right, like possibly, landscape art or even those people, well, it wouldn't
Yeah,
even be.
or more design stuff, or
Hmm.
and
Lawrence,
my
do you,
stuff isn't my stuff's, go on.
well, no, go ahead and finish that.
No, no, no. I was done.
I
What were you
mean, I
gonna
can
say?
understand what you're saying, fantasy concept art. I mean, it does have mass appeal. I think some people would buy it, but a lot of what you do is probably developed
Yeah.
specifically for clients. Do you have the discount code for Painter? Is that on lawrencemann.com?
No.
It,
I scrolled it away in a few different videos, but I haven't left it out in the
okay.
open. I believe it is it 2015 LM?
I don't know. You know what, everybody? I'll just send that to you along with the brushes today. We'll make it easy. I'll send you, it's a coupon code that you can enter on our website. So I'll be sure that I get that to everybody. Oh, and Amanda clarified, she said, yes, like on Society 6 and other websites similar to that. And she also agrees with you that she put in loads of effort and the artwork doesn't seem to sell. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
challenging.
I've put up a few things on a few different websites, and you put in a lot of time and effort, and just there's very little return. You might sell a few, but ultimately, you put in a lot of work behind the scenes, and there's, one of the points we were talking about very early on, digital versus traditional,
Hmm.
and spoken to galleries in the past. Galleries who have work similar to mine, and then as soon as they've discovered, and that's it. It's just because I'm a digital artist,
Well, hopefully that will all change in the near
just the way it
future.
is.
Because so many art
I'd like to think so.
reproductions, well, giclée prints are so popular, people buy those. And what's the difference between that and digital art? Because ultimately it is a flat version of whatever the original artwork may have been, if that was oil or acrylics or whatever medium it was created in.
See, it shouldn't really make a difference, should it? But I think some people are just set in their ways about these things. There's a TV show called I can't remember what it's called. Artist of the Year, anyway. It's something along those. It's open to anybody. Doesn't matter whether you're a professional or an amateur or anything.
Aaron's wondering if you think
Going
there's
on for about 3 or 4 years.
is
Go
that
on.
in the UK only, that show?
Yeah, I think it is. They'll probably do an American version. But I was just going to
Yeah.
say that it's funny that they have people painting in wax and everything like that, and they're like, "Oh, this is so strange and unusual." Ooh, and people can paint in whatever they want, but you never ever see a digital painter there.
Hmm, that's too bad. So I have one more
Mm,
question from Aaron here, and he's wondering if there's more of a demand, or if you believe there's more of a demand for commercial art than fine art right now.
Well, for me, I have to pay my bills. So, in that respect, commercial art it is just that's the difference, isn't it? But I mean, what is the difference between commercial and fine art? Commercial is just something somebody's paid you to draw, isn't it? Is that is that the difference, or is that what you'd call the difference, do you reckon? You still there?
Sorry, I was stuck on mute.
Hello?
I am here. I'm here.
I
I couldn't get
got
myself
worried
on
then.
mute. um, but yeah, I think that's a hard one because even fine art could be
It
contracted
could be
by
commercial,
somebody.
couldn't it? Yeah, exactly. For me, I just think it could be commercial or it could be.
Do you think it's
I don't
easier
know.
to have
It's
success as an illustrator or a fine artist?
I would say fine artist if fine art is not about the money, because then you could just say I'm successful. I can just say, oh, I'm successful because I'm successful.
It's always about the money, though. You can do what you love,
Then,
but you have to live off of it.
well, then, does a fine artist have to be wealthy when they're alive, or just wealthy when or just famous when they're dead?
It's the sad truth.
Sense.
Most artists are more famous after they pass away. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Because most of them are penniless when they're alive, aren't they? So
Seems
if it
that
doesn't
way.
matter until they're dead, if it doesn't matter until after they die, then
Okay, you've been going for an hour and 17 minutes, Lawrence.
well, brilliant to me. But it's one of those things that I could just keep drawing on, and eventually it'll get to somewhere that I'd like.
That is always what happens with artists.
That's just exactly.
I just love the light reflection. It's amazing.
I mean, that's the thing with this. It's all about just building up layers of tone.
We have a request for you to paint flames right now.
Um, I wonder who that's come from. Um, do you know something? Yes. I'm wondering.
She actually said she's joking. You don't have to. Ooh, but you are.
Hmm. Yeah. Let me just find the right brush. I wish I could turn that one on. New layer. This one will be great, but I'm worried. I'm really worried about my microphone cutting out. I don't know if you can still hear me.
It keeps cutting off my access to unmute myself for some reason. Yes, we could hear you. And she really was joking. She wasn't expecting you to draw flames. Do you
That's
know,
quite
Lawrence,
odd.
I believe that all of the brushes in Painter work with mirror mode. Have you ever run into a case where a brush didn't
I
work in mirror mode?
I have never run into a case where anything didn't work without mirror mode. Yeah, everything, as far as I'm aware, works with mirror mode. Everything.
Yeah, I believe
I don't see
that's true.
why something wouldn't work with mirror mode. Mirror mode's been around for a while. It's completely stable. I've never had any. Well, that's quite nice. That's one thing that layer modes there. My composite methods. Um, and just finding whatever works best. So I'll always spend a good 5 minutes just going through all of these. That works real nicely, doesn't it?
Yep, makes it pop. Looks great.
Yeah, I could just take it down a bit, but there you go. Could always add a bit more in as well, just to. I was really worried about this, you know, ruining the microphone. But you notice on this one side, you can see
I
the
see the
actual
particles.
particle, and on the other side you can see the brush tip, which is quite strange.
It's probably a go-to meeting messing with things.
Yeah. Now this brush isn't in the dragon set. This was in another set that I was giving away recently on my Facebook page. But I can always make sure that that's handed across as well.
They love your flames.
Are the flames going down well? Flames are
Yes.
getting the thumbs up. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
That's good.
All
I'll
right.
get rid of this dummy layer. Um,
I don't have any more questions in here, and
yeah.
I did let everybody know that we have recorded this session, so I'll process this once we're done, and I'll get it up on YouTube for you. So if you want to go back and check out all of it or certain portions of it, you can do that. And I'll also follow up by sending the promo code for the discount on Painter and the brushes to everybody that joined us today. Thank you so much for joining us live. It's always a lot of fun. And Lawrence, thanks
Yeah,
to you for
it certainly
taking
was.
so much time out of your day to show us a little bit about Painter.
No worries. I am. Oops. I will turn. Yeah, no worries at all. No worries at all. I'm glad I could be of help, and yeah, I'm glad you like the dragon. Obviously, this would be a lot further on had I not talked. I'm normally a very, very quiet person while I draw, but yeah, I
Well,
can't seem to do two things at once.
I have to tell you, I mean, a lot of people open up stages of work just for that reason during a webinar because it is very challenging. So I think this is very impressive. Nicely
It
done.
is. I think artists normally, that we're all very private people, and we all normally, you know, don't normally even have other people around us while we draw, let alone, you know, let alone talk while we actually draw. So realistically, to multitask like that can be a little bit difficult. And then it's not that bad, but then to try and also come up with something that looks half decent within an hour or so, you know, it's never going to go in your portfolio anyway, put it like that.
No, no. But
What
this,
I might do though is I might just carry on with this piece for a little bit.
all right. Well, if you do that and if you post it to your Facebook page and or anywhere else in social media, I know you're on pretty much every property, we'll be sure to share it.
Yeah, yeah.
All
It's only a
right.
shame
Well,
I don't have. Yeah,
you don't
go on.
have No, I just wanted to thank everybody again for joining us. And we already have a webinar for next month lined up. It's going to be Cliff Cramp, and he's also an illustrator. And I believe that's on October 24th. But I will add that event to YouTube, and hopefully you can Facebook. And you should also get an email from us about the event. And Lawrence, thank you so very much. I
It's been
will
my absolute
process
pleasure.
this and I'll send you the link to the recording once I have it up on YouTube.
Cool.
All right, have a great day, everybody, or an evening. In your case, Lawrence, now you can go relax a little bit.
Oh, I will do.
All right, thanks again. Bye, everybody.
You too. Bye.